YouTube family. I'm going to be doing fuel injectors on a 02 E320 Mercedes. That's a W210 platform with the M112 engine. It would be very similar with the M113 on the E430. First thing you have to do is remove that engine cover, that plastic cover over there. That just lifts right off. Then you got to take this little air baffle out. That pulls right off. Just disconnect the hose. That comes right out of there. Should come right out of there. The hose is a little hard, dried up. Oh, I may have to get a new hose, huh? I'm gonna have to get a pick and open that up. I'm trying to get this air intake tube off because I want to replace the seal by the throttle body. I did work on my other vehicle. I did the head gaskets and the rebreathers. The oil rebreathers, they tend to leak on these. While I was going to that extent of removing the coil packs and everything, I replaced that seal. What happens to that seal right at the throttle body is that dries out and you'll get unmetered air, which will affect your performance and MPG and everything. It's not good for the engine to be running lean like that. I'm going to try to figure out how to get this out. I unscrewed this clamp, and I'll let you know if I make any headway on this. I'm going to take my time. I don't want to break it, and I don't want to bore the hell out of you. See how this is held on? There's a bolt down there. It's probably an E8 or an E10. I believe I have to loosen that, and then this just unclips and it pulls off. All right, let me go get some tools. Morning, YouTube family. Paul here. We're doing a 02 Mercedes E320. I was having excessive cranking on here. I did a fuel pressure test on the Schrader valve here and found that my pressure was jumping up to about 40 pounds and then dropping right back to 10. As soon as the engine starts, I run it, shut it off, it goes to 0. Drops to 10 and then to 0. I believe I have leaky fuel injectors. So today I'm going to be putting in some upgraded 4-hole remanufactured fuel injectors. I got a good deal on them on eBay. They said they're all balanced, flow balanced and everything. While I'm at this, I'm hoping to change this intake seal that goes right to the throttle body. I did this on my E430 as well. They tend to dry out and you will get a leak of unmetered air that will impede your performance and mileage. Couple of things you're going to need to do. First of all, I'll start with the basics. To pull the plastic engine cover off, you just lift it, it unclips. Then this little air baffle, that pulls off as well. To get this air intake off, you're going to have to undo this clamp here, and there's an E10 bolt down there. What I do is I put one of these very strong magnets on my socket. That way the bolt doesn't disappear down into the netherworld on me. Before you do this, you're going to want to depressurize your fuel system if you don't have the same problem I have. Just when your car is running, pull your fuel pump fuse and let the car run until the runs out of gas. That'll depressurize your fuel rail. All right. Next, you're going to disconnect your battery cable. That's an 11 millimeter or a 7/16. I just locked the door. There's a little access port under the rear passenger seat on a left-hand drive car, and it's an 11 millimeter or a 7/16. Just unbolt that. Take your battery cable off. You don't want to have any live juice when you may have gasoline around. Next thing I would recommend is I thoroughly blew this engine off with compressed air. I wanted to get all the crud out of in between the valve covers and the manifold. While I'm pulling those injectors off, I didn't want any of that trash getting down into the engine air. Whatever goes into those intakes, those ports there are going to wind up going up into your intake manifold and right into your cylinders. All right. Next thing I'm going to do now is take this E10 off of here and try to get this air intake out of the way. Okay. I guess I may as well just film it. I'm using a wobble extension, makes it a little easier to get in there, and my magnet's sticking to everything. Pros and cons of a magnet. It's not an E10, it's an E8, I believe. Sorry about that. No, it might be a 10. I might just not be getting on the right angle there. Try a shorter extension. Yeah, it's an E10. Gonna have to get in there with a short extension. Can't get on the angle with the longer one. It's on too much of an angle. On the this is an M112 engine. On the M113 engine on the bottom here, there's a little lever you have to, I believe you got to push it down, and then that unclips. I don't feel anything like that on this. I believe this is what's holding this on. We will find out. I couldn't find anything on removing this. This magnet is not helping me. I don't want to lose any bolts today. Then I got to jack the car off and then pull off the underbody panels. All right, let me try getting that magnet on there now. Nope. Yeah, that'd be a bitch trying to get that bolt out without that magnet. No, I would recommend using a magnet on that. It should pull off now, I believe. Gonna have to get that vacuum line off. I'm gonna try to do this without breaking any of these vacuum hoses. I don't want to have to buy a new set, but that may be what's happening here. Yep, just comes right off. Just got to wiggle it, and clips on to the manifold with this. Get this one vacuum line off. That's for the rebreather. Let me get a pick. Okay, I did get that out, and it does have that tab down here on the bottom. You have to push down on that and it lifts out. I took the rebreather off on the valve cover. I found it easier to get in there with a pick tool. That right over there. These come in handy. I got a whole set of these. I think it's 5 or 6 of them, all different angles, sizes. Available on eBay, not too expensive. Yeah, this seal is pretty hard. I have a couple of seals that I have inside. I'm gonna go see if I have the right size for this. I would really like to do this while I'm going through doing these injectors. You know, if you get to this point, it's one more step. You may as well do preventive maintenance, keep your car running right. They're only like about $12, $13 for those seals. I'll be back. This seal, how dry and brittle it is. It's cracking if I go to bend it. I did have the right seal to replace it. The part number is A112-159-0080. A112 159 0080. Real easy to get that on and off. Just slip it right in there. It's got little holes in here that you got to get these tabs to so it stays on. Make sure you line them up right. And then you won't have any unmetered air getting in there. Get a nice good seal on your throttle body. Alright, that's on there. I'm going to put this on the side. Trying to find the bolts that hold this fuel rail on. Okay, there's 4 bolts right on the top here. Now how the hell am I supposed to get to them? How in the hell am I going to get to those 2 over there? That's wonderful. Just come off of here. It's plastic. This must unclip, right? This has got to unclip. There's no way for me to get to that. Yep, that pulls off. It's a wire harness. Little tabs here you got to push back. I might have to unplug these coil packs. Looks like that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to remove that harness. Let me figure this out. You've got a little 8mm bolt that has to come off of here, this clamp. Slide that out of the way. Then you're going to need a pick to get this rebreather hose off, because it kind of goes over this piece and then under it. Can't lift that harness away with that hose in there. It's going to kind of hang you up. Looks like I'm going to have to disconnect this plug down here. The only injector plugs are going to have to come out of that. And it looks like I may have to pull my coil plugs just to get that out of the way, at least on this side. These get a little brittle, so try to be gentle with them from all the heat of the engine. I might have to cut that wire tie. On these injector plugs, I believe you just depress these two tabs. See those metal tabs on there? You just depress them and then they'll pull off. You don't want to go forcing them. I'm going to get curved needle nose pliers to get in there and depress those. And I should be able to get this harness out of the way. Gonna have to cut a couple of cable ties probably and just put them back on. Let me go get those bent needle nose. Right now is I'm taking a picture of the engine because I want to set my injectors back up just the way they were before. Same direction. Those are to the back, those are to the front. Alright, the passenger side, they're all facing towards the rear of the car, and the driver's side, they're all facing to the front of the car. Try to remember where you're moving the wire ties from because you don't want wires bouncing around causing wear on the insulation from the engine vibration and movement. I'm going to secure them where they were secured. Let's try the bent ones. Actually, I could just try lifting the fuel rail out with those connected. That's what I'm going to do. It looks like those are an E10, right? Those are an E10. I couldn't find torque specs on the tightening down of the fuel rail. I'm just going to crack this loose a little bit. I still got to undo the fuel line. Now I'm going to have to disconnect them to get enough room to get in here, I think. Get a 17 millimeter and undo that fuel line. I believe it's 17 mil. Yep, fuel line 17 millimeter. That's why I disconnected the battery. I got a little gas coming out of that fuel rail. I didn't pull my fuel pump fuse and run it dry because I had no real pressure on it. Just a little bit residue laying in there. Engine's not hot. Make sure you don't do this on a hot engine. You will have a fire. Those are being a little stubborn. Alright, I think I'm going to try to just pull the whole fuel rail out. And here we go, we need the magnet again. Let me go get my little magnet on the wand. These are different. It's got to stay by itself. The fuel rail and that bolt that hold down that intake tube are different lengths. Don't mix them up. You just kind of move that to the side a little bit. You can get in there, come up, and then move it sideways. And you can get right directly down into that bolt. I'm hoping that the injectors will pull out of the manifold. I don't want to damage any of these clips. If they don't, I'm going to have to unclip them first. Feeling a little stubborn. I'm going to get something and gently pry on there, on these, and the injectors are starting to come out of the manifold. You don't want to damage the fuel rail or these valve covers. This is not strong. I think it's a magnesium aluminum blend or something like that. It's not that strong, it'll crack. So take your time, be gentle. Plus you don't want to twist up those clips on the injectors as well. Pinch any wires. One stubborn one here. Here it goes. to disconnect all of these plugs and wires here? Looks like I might. One plug there. Oh, that's got to get repaired. That's a potential problem right there. That wire insulator, it's all dried out and cracked right on the alternator there. That's going to be an electrical problem. That's going to be a future electrical problem. That's got to get rewrapped. Glad I saw that. Alright, I'm shutting this off because I got to figure out what I got to disconnect and everything. Sorry guys. Okay, the way they got this wiring harness set up on here, this is a little more involved than I thought it was going to be. I didn't really take notice of this when I looked at it quick. But I've disconnected the air pump hose to give me a little bit of leeway with these wires here. I may just be able to lift this fuel rail up and unclip these injectors and just try to do them from this position instead of pulling the whole fuel rail out. I would have rather just lifted the fuel rail out and make sure I got all the O-rings out and everything, but I'm going to do what I got to do to get this done. Let me see about this side. Looks like I'm going to do the same thing on this side. That looks like the way I'm going to do this. I'm not going to take the whole fuel rail out. I was going to lift it up and out, but that doesn't look like it's makes too much sense at this point. I'm going to start taking these clips off now, then try to get the injector connections off. These will give me a hard time. Let me take the clips off. Maybe I can get the injector out and then I can play with those injector connections a little easier. All right. Watch you don't lose these, that they don't go flying. You just pry them off. That way. Come right out. Got to make sure you get these on the same way. They lock those injectors in place. You want to make sure those are on secure, or you're going to have a fuel leak and your car is going to go on fire. So be gentle with these, don't mutilate them. Sometimes these O-rings like to stay up in the fuel rail. Wiggle it a little bit. You don't want to break the injector either. So be gentle. I'm not going to film all of this because I'm going to be taking my time working them out, okay? You got the idea. Take your time. Don't crack anything. Okay, little by little I'm getting them out. I'm taking a screwdriver, prying on the edge of that with that piece on the injector rail, on the fuel rail where it lines up. I'm wiggling it and pushing with that and getting them out. The plugs are a bitch. I don't know why the plugs are so hard to remove. Maybe it's because they've been on there for 16 years. Could that be it? But they are on there. All right, patience, people. Patience and persistence. You can do it. Okay. I would say about 40 minutes. 30 to 45 minutes. I got the one side done. I got them all off. Every one of the O-rings came out. Got the clips off. Depress these metal pieces here. Depress them and just pull it. They're a little rough to get off. I hope yours aren't on as bad as mine were, but they were hard to get them off. Alright. I was going to put the new injectors back on that side, but I don't want to beat the new injectors up while I'm working on removing these. So I guess I'll get all of the old injectors out, then put the new ones in. That way I'm not bouncing the new ones around on the manifold and potentially damaging them and getting them dirty and stuff. Okay? Alright, I'm going to repeat the same procedure here. Remove my clips and then pry a little bit over here on that flat spot on the injector, wiggling it and prying a little bit. Taking my time to work them out. You don't want to snap that injector off up in that fuel rail. That's a world of headaches there. Alright, so I'm going to be taking my time. I suggest you do the same. Sometimes you take your time, you get done a lot faster than trying to rush through stuff. I'm actually going to take a 10-minute break. Alright, okay guys, we'll continue. Alright, I started wiggling on these with the bent needle nose. I'm getting them off that way, but the only thing I notice now are these rings. These O-rings are staying up in there. I got paper towel blocking the manifold holes so I don't lose one of the rings down there. I don't even know if it would fit right in there. It might have to be shoved in, but I don't want to take a chance. It's good to cover them anyway. Keep from getting crap in there. Alright, that's working. And then I'm using this small pick tool to get the rings out of the fuel rail. Alright, make sure you got all your rings from both ends. Plugs is using the bent needle noses and really getting to squeeze these metal prongs in. Seems to be making it easier to get them off. You really need to depress those fully. So get bent needle nose pliers and depress them, because you got to get over these little lips here. I think I wasn't able to squeeze it hard enough with my hands. That's why I was having such a hard time. A lot quicker with wiggling them out with the needle nose and then just pulling the ring out. That seems to be the quickest method with getting these out. And then once again depressing this with the needle nose. Okay, now time to put the injectors back together. Just reverse process, everybody. And that's injectors on a 02 E320 M112 engine from Mercedes-Benz. Pretty much same thing for the M113. I don't think I'm going to waste all your time with doing reassembly here. It's just put the connectors on, get the injectors in. If I have a hard time getting these O-rings to seat up, I may use some lubricant. What I'm going to use though is silicone based brake grease lube. It's safe for rubber. Do not use any kind of petroleum oil or grease. You will eat those rubber O-rings up. It has to be something that is safe for rubber O-rings, okay? If you need to lubricate them at all. When you put that fuel rail in, you're just going to have to work it in a little bit at a time. Make sure it's seated well, okay? Like anything else, I tell you, take your time, pay attention. You'll get done quicker in the long run. I think they have this in the books as a 6-hour job. This is not going to take me 6 hours, you know. So if I'm doing it wrong, it's still getting done quicker. So I don't know. This is how I'm doing it, guys. I couldn't see how I was going to get this whole harness off of here with all these connections here. Some of them were bolted on, these wires. I didn't want to go through all of that just to get that rail up out of the way. I managed this way, and I'm getting done quicker. All right, it's not going to take me 6 hours. All right, guys, I'll show you this when it's finished up, and hopefully it runs better and I don't have that fuel pressure issue. We'll see what happens. I'm using to lubricate these up. I'm not going to even try it without it because I know it's going to be a tight squeeze. I would rather have these slide in nice and easy and not damage any of these O-rings. It's Sil Glide brake lubricant, silicone based. Here, ease in rebuilding of rubber parts, O-rings, grommets, boots, seals, boots against moisture. So this is okay for rubber. All right, guys, if you're going to lubricate them with this. All right, don't use grease, regular grease. It's going to damage them. All right.